Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the noise, try to bring you the clearest insights. Today, we're going into some deeply challenging territory. A stark look at the tragic vulnerability of children and the devastating consequences of neglect and abuse. It's definitely a heavy subject, but one we feel really demands our focused attention. As we started looking through our sources for this deep dive, one recent case, it just immediately stood out. The harrowing incident involving Justin Golden and his infant son, Pablo. The story, while profoundly disturbing, is sadly not isolated. Our articles included quite a few other headlines that, when you look at them together, they paint a really troubling picture of child endangerment and the many forms it can take. Our goal here isn't sensationalism, it's more about a clear-eyed understanding of the extreme risks children can face. Okay, let's explore this. So our primary source article has this headline: Dad arguing over baby wipes and money during Walmart run leaves 8-month-old baby in intercession and drives over him. That's just almost unbearable to even read. The report centers on Justin Golden. He's 20, in Florida. Arrested back in January, and then this past September, pleaded guilty to aggravated manslaughter of a child, his 8-month-old son, Pablo. Now, what's interesting here, legally speaking perhaps, is that the vehicular homicide charge, that was actually dismissed as part of the plea agreement. His sentencing is set for November 13th.
Yeah, that distinction, it seems subtle, but it's quite significant.
Yeah.
Aggravated manslaughter of a child often points to a higher degree of culpability, maybe a direct intentional act, or perhaps just an extreme disregard for life that goes, beyond simple recklessness with a car. So dismissing the vehicular homicide charge, even as part of a plea,
Right.
it likely shifts the legal focus onto Golden's direct actions toward Pablo. Not solely the act of driving. It really underscores the severity of what happened.
The incident itself, it happened January 25th in the morning. Golden was driving his GMC truck. Pablo and the baby's mother were with him. They'd just left a Walmart. An argument starts up, reportedly over baby wipes and money. Seems so minor, but it escalated. It got to the point where the mother said she wanted to get out of the truck just to end the fight.
Golden's response, according to reports, was chilling. He apparently said he did not want to be responsible for the child.
Right. And then, at an intersection, she gets out. The mother exits the vehicle.
And Golden,
Oh?
he then takes little Pablo out of the truck.
Yes. Takes the infant out, sits him directly in the road. In the road.
And then just drives off, running over his own son. It's a sequence of events that's incredibly difficult to process.
And the witness accounts just make it starker, don't they?
They really do. A driver who was behind Golden's truck, they saw the mother leave the vehicle with nothing in her arms. That detail stands out. Then this witness saw Golden take something out of his truck, put it on the ground.
At first, they thought it was, trash?
A bag of trash, exactly. But then, after the truck drove over it, the witness saw it move. Realized with horror it was a child. Another detail the witness noted, really unsettling, was that Golden, as he drove off, did not speed away.
Didn't speed away.
Which suggests something deliberate, almost chillingly calm, not like a panicked escape at all.
And the mother's experience.
Utterly distraught,
Yeah.
naturally. She told police that after she got out of the truck, she heard screaming, turned around.
And saw her baby there, in the middle of the road.
Yes. Pablo was rushed to the hospital, but tragically pronounced dead.
The aftermath, too, the family grief.
It really highlights the shared human toll. Local reports from February, they showed both grandmothers' maternal and paternal grieving together.
Oh, wow.
Pablo's maternal grandmother, Evelyn, she shared that he loved smiling, loved playing with his brother, he loved his mom, he loved his dad, just a happy baby.
Mm.
And his paternal grandmother, Marie, she pointed out their families had known each other a long time, emphasizing that despite the father's, incomprehensible actions, the loss was universal for both sides.
An agonizing shared burden, just devastating. And while Pablo's case is just agonizingly specific, as we look deeper into the sources, this broader, disturbing pattern started to emerge. When you look at the other headlines, this wasn't some completely isolated incident in the news cycle. Our collection articles had, a number of other stories. Distinct circumstances, yes, but tragically underscoring the same thing: the immense vulnerability of children.
Exactly. And when we connect the specifics of the Golden case to this wider landscape, you start to see these various forms of harm and neglect impacting children. Across numerous reports, it kind of prompted us to ask, what underlying patterns or categories start to emerge when you look at these difficult stories together. It's not about finding one single cause, obviously, but trying to understand the multifaceted risks children face. So we've sort of organize these incidents into a few key categories, just to help us, and hopefully you listening, make some sense of this truly overwhelming information.
Okay. Where should we start?
Let's begin with Category 1, intentional abuse and direct harm. So these are the cases where the actions taken against a child are, well, undeniably deliberate and often brutally violent.
Right. As we were reviewing the sheer volume of these, I mean, it's hard to even talk about, but I found myself trying to see the different kinds of cruelty, if that makes sense. What patterns did you notice within this category, this intentional abuse?
That's a really crucial question. We saw several um, striking patterns. For instance, you have the sheer, just unimaginable brutality in headlines like, "Man fatally struck 2-month-old infant more than 40 times with as much force as he could before strangling baby's mother." That
Mm-hmm.
kind of explosive, overwhelming violence against an infant, that's one extreme.
Just horrific.
But then we also saw cases of more insidious, prolonged cruelty, like that story of the deranged couple accused of forcing starved 5-year-old to eat his own feces after strapping him to a chair and beating him with paddle.
Oh, God.
What's often startling, and our sources kind of hint at this, is how frequently such extreme violence might be preceded by escalating, maybe unreported smaller incidents. A seemingly sudden burst of brutality might actually be the tragic endpoint of a long hidden pattern of control or anger, which makes early intervention so incredibly hard.
Right, because it's hidden.
Exactly. And another difficult truth is how often these acts come from those meant to protect the child, or even unexpected places, like the case of the 1-year-old pummeled by daycare worker beating caught on video.
His first day, the headline said.
His first day. It's a reminder that danger can really come from anywhere, even places we entrust with care.
It's almost too much hearing these examples one after another, but I think what's critical, like you said, is recognizing the common threads beneath the individual horror. Okay, moving on. We then identified a second troubling pattern in our sources. Category 2, fatal neglect and recklessness. So here, the harm isn't always, say, direct physical abuse, but the actions or maybe the inactions of caregivers are just as devastating.
Yes, this category really shows a different but equally perilous spectrum of harm. It's not necessarily that intentional physical assault, but maybe a profound failure of care or judgment. That puts a child in grave danger. Think about that story. The dad who gave 2-month-old baby Benadryl so he could spend quality time with his wife found guilty of manslaughter.
That one came up twice in our sources, I noticed.
It did, yeah. It highlights its shocking nature, I suppose. It reveals a deliberate decision, right? Prioritizing adult convenience over a child's basic safety with tragic, fatal, perhaps unintended, but fatal consequences nonetheless. These cases, they aren't always about malice. Sometimes they seem to be tragic reflections of overwhelming parental stress or mental health crises, maybe addiction.
Circumstances that just strip away the ability to care.
Exactly, leaving children in this kind of silent, deadly limbo. We also saw examples like the mom arrested after diaper-clad girl found wandering busy streets carrying an iPad and accompanied by a dog.
Not immediately fatal, maybe, but speaks volumes about the level of neglect. The potential for harm is undeniable.
Absolutely. And then that truly heartbreaking one. 3 toddlers begged neighbors for food and water, then told cops their parents were lying dead inside.
Just unimaginable.
A scenario where some crisis or ongoing neglect left children completely abandoned and vulnerable. These are situations where children are left in inherently dangerous circumstances, often without basic care. The consequences can be just as dire as direct violence.
Yeah, these stories really underscore how profound a lack of oversight, or maybe just an inability to cope, can be. Which brings us, finally, to Category 3, systemic vulnerabilities and tragic circumstances. These are situations where children become victims not just of, individual acts, but of larger, more complicated things, external factors maybe that highlight broader societal issues or extreme environmental neglect.
This category, it really emphasizes the complex layers of risk
Yeah.
and the systemic failures that can lead to these heartbreaking tragedies. You see interpersonal violence spilling over, impacting innocent lives. Like that road rage incident involving a grieving family caring for a tiny baby girl delivered after her 17-year-old mother was shot.
That story was also repeated in the sources. Such a tragedy.
It really is. It shows how external violence creates this profound, lifelong trauma for the most innocent. Then there are these shocking examples of deep familial dysfunction and severe exploitation. Like the grandmother of an 11-year-old girl who allegedly gave birth to stepdad's baby, also arrested.
That just suggests cycles of abuse, a complete breakdown of protection.
A multi-generational breakdown, potentially,
Yeah.
and a failure of protective structures.
And those reports of children living in dungeon-like conditions, truly chilling. Headlines like, 5 children allegedly locked in dungeon with boarded walls in deplorable living conditions. couple arrested.
Mhm.
And there was a similar story, 13 children removed from parents' care after being found living in deplorable conditions. These stories, they reveal a complete, utter breakdown of a safe living environment.
Mhm.
It's not just one bad act, it's a pattern of sustained, extreme neglect, often hidden from view. We also looked at the immense tragedy of the bodies of missing mom, Whisper Owen, and her 8-month-old baby, found pinned in submerged car after a month-long search, highlighting how unforeseen accidents can devastate families. Right.
These cases, taken together, they really paint a picture of how external events, societal issues, and severe hidden neglect can combine, creating environments of extreme risk for kids.
Indeed. And what stands out, I think, across all these tragic scenarios is the profound isolation that these families and children often experience, whether it's parents struggling with, say, mental health crises, or the systemic failures and oversight that allow such conditions to just fester, or the very hidden nature of abuse within households. Our sources seem to suggest a consistent gap, a place where intervention could have happened, but didn't.
Right.
And that often points to a wider societal issue, doesn't it? Under-resourced support systems, maybe a lack of community vigilance. It makes these children essentially invisible until tragedy strikes. It also just highlights the profound challenges in identifying and intervening in these complex, often hidden situations to protect vulnerable children before it's too late. So what does this all mean for us, for you listening? We've looked at the specific devastating case of Justin Golden and little Pablo, and then we broadened our view to these other harrowing headlines. It's clear that the stories of children facing harm are incredibly diverse in their specifics, but universally heartbreaking. You've heard about direct brutal abuse, fatal neglect stemming from dire circumstances, children caught in larger tragic situations. As you absorb these stories, what stands out to you about the sheer fragility of young lives? What patterns of human behavior or maybe systemic failures seem to repeat across these different incidents, making children so vulnerable?
These reports, they really serve as a powerful and painful reminder of the critical importance of recognizing the signs, often subtle signs of neglect or abuse. They challenge us, I think, to look beyond the surface, to consider the unseen struggles within families, within communities that can escalate to such extreme outcomes. While these are certainly extreme cases, they highlight society's collective protective role for its most vulnerable members. It's also crucial to remember the ripple effect, the shared grief of families, like we saw in the Golden case, and the impact on wider communities. This encourages us all, hopefully, to consider the vigilance needed to safeguard children and the profound consequences when that safety is breached. The patterns we've discussed today, from the hidden nature of abuse to the systemic gaps in support, they aren't just isolated incidents. They feel like calls for greater awareness and maybe more community engagement.
This has been a deeply difficult, but I think incredibly vital deep dive. From the specific tragic details of Justin Golden's actions against his infant son, Pablo, to the broader thematic exploration of child endangerment across numerous other headlines, we've seen the many ways children can be put at extreme risk, often by those who should protect them, or just through the tragic confluence of circumstances. As you reflect on these stories, maybe consider not just the individual acts, the cruelty or the negligence, but the environments, the pressures that might contribute to such dire outcomes for children. What can we as individuals and maybe as a community learn from these difficult truths to better identify and support families in crisis, and ultimately to protect the most vulnerable among us? Thank you for engaging with this deep dive and for allowing us to explore these challenging but profoundly important topics with you today.